17, this is an ordinance to amend the planning code to exempt certain types of projects in the downtown area that replace non-residential uses with residential uses from development impact fees and requirements, to include the inclusionary housing fee, remove the application deadline from the commercial to residential adaptive reuse program, and to require periodic reporting to the inclusionary housing technical advisory committee, and to affirm the CEQA determination and to make the appropriate findings.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On item 17, Supervisor Mandelman.
Aye.
Mandelman, aye. Supervisor Melgar. Aye. Melgar, aye. Supervisor Sauter. Aye. Sauter, aye. Supervisor Sherrill. Aye. Sherrill, aye. Supervisor Walton. No. Walton, no. Supervisor Chan. Aye. Chan, aye. Supervisor Chen. Chen, aye. Supervisor Dorsey. Aye. Dorsey, aye. Supervisor Engardio. Aye. Engardio, aye. And Supervisor Mahmoud. Mahmoud, aye. There are 9 ayes and 1 no, with Supervisor Walton voting no.
The ordinance is finally passed. Madam Clerk, will you please?
Development impact fees and requirements for non-residential to residential conversion projects.
The Mayor and Supervisor Dorsey introduced the ordinance before you today back in October as part of our ongoing downtown economic recovery efforts. As a reminder of where we stand today, San Francisco has a currently historic vacancy rate for office of about 37%. That is about 32 million square feet of vacant office space, which is about 22 Salesforce towers. So it is a significant situation downtown. The projections are that it could take as long as 18 years to get back to a 6% relatively healthy vacancy rate. That is why, as you're all familiar, that office to housing conversions are one of the key parts of our downtown recovery efforts. We have learned that there are 3 main cost drivers on the city side that are holding these projects back. The city's inclusionary and affordable housing impact fee and other impact fee requirements is the 3rd major cost driver. That's what brings us here today. That's what this ordinance is about. This ordinance would address that one by waiving impact fees, including the affordable housing requirements, for downtown office to housing conversion projects only. These fees amount to around $70,000 to $90,000 per unit in a building. So that's $7 to $9 million per 100 units constructed of cost being added to these projects, one of these 3 cost drivers that I mentioned. We believe this waiver is appropriate for this targeted subset of projects because which again, as I say, is only for residential conversions from office and in the downtown core area, C3 and C2, because these projects address 2 of the city's most pressing policy needs. 1, housing production. Number 2, economic recovery. By adding units to the market, we help meet our housing goals and also bring prices down, while at the same time reducing the supply of vacant office will help to stabilize the office market and by extension our property and business tax base that supports everything else the city does.
Hello, my name is James Stallworth. I run a company called Brownstone Shared Housing. You may have heard of our $700 sleeping pods in Mint Plaza downtown in the news. And regardless of how you feel about pod housing, the key operating word here is housing. Where there was previously just an abandoned bank, we were able to create housing for 30 people for a cost of just $70,000. And we worked through the planning process, originally wanting this to be capital A affordable housing, ran through the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, but they, late in the process, interjected that it doesn't qualify as that for various reasons. And so we were left with the only option being to pay this affordable housing impact fee. And so it led to the ironic situation where we're charging $700 a month to create housing that is affordable downtown. But in order for that to be approved, we have to pay $300,000 for an affordable housing fee. That's not practical. If we were to raise that as investment, then the investors would say, oh, you have to charge double that. And so the fee makes it impractical for this and future projects that we want to do downtown to be in that price range where anyone, a lot of our residents make just $2,000 a month. They're working minimum wage or just whatever they have to do to get by. And so we really designed this to do exactly what we're doing, but currently that affordable housing fee is an existential threat to that. And I just want to close by saying that the world is watching what we do here today. Pretty much any time something happens with this project, national and local media reach out. And so this is a brilliant opportunity for the city of San Francisco to show that it's committed to its goals of adding housing of all types downtown, where there's currently just blight and abandoned offices. Thank you.
It's really tough to get anything built out there right now, no matter what it is. And I actually thank you for the gentleman who created this sleeping pod. You know, I like the black and white colors, very interesting, cool. And I also appreciate other people who try to innovatively think about ways to adapt and reuse and not leave our city and find some other neighboring county.
So I looked at the numbers that you're asking about of what are the fees looked like before the pandemic versus now. So if we look at 2019, we generated a total of $72 million in fees, and that came from inclusionary, jobs housing, and plan area fees. Today, in 2004, we're looking at a little bit less than $3 million, compared to that, almost 75. So we've seen a huge drop-off.
This is a very eyeball-popping number. Thank you for, wow, we don't need a elementary level math degree to understand that.
Feel you either support it or you don't, and I don't believe personally that at this particular moment I want to chisel and fuzz with what we're asked to do, but have the courage to stand for something which I strongly believe in. I do believe that the future of downtown, and as it kind of has a ripple effects outward to our adjoining neighborhoods, will depend on trying to take the step and facilitate ways how people will want to do it, and they have significant challenges on their own plates, how we can make this happen.
On that motion, Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Commissioner McGarry?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams?
Nay.
Commissioner Braun?
Aye.
Commissioner Imperial?
No.
Commissioner Moore?
Aye.
And Commission President So.
Aye.
So moved, Commissioners. That motion passes 5-2, with Commissioners Williams and Imperial voting against.
Good afternoon, everyone. This meeting will come to order. Welcome to the February 10th, 2025 regular meeting of the Land Use and Transportation Committee of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. I am Supervisor Myrna Melgar, Chair of the committee, joined by Vice Chair, Supervisor Cheyenne Chen, and Supervisor Bilal Mahmoud. The committee clerk today is John Carroll, and I also want to say a special thank you to Kalina Mendoza at SFGov TV for covering this meeting and transmitting it to our residents. Mr. Clerk, do you have any announcements?
Agenda item number 2 is an ordinance amending the planning code to, first, exempt certain types of projects in the downtown area that replace non-residential uses with residential uses from department impact fees and requirements, including the inclusionary housing fee. Second, create a process for previously approved projects to request modification to conditions of approval related to development impact fees subject to delegation by the Planning Commission. Third, remove the application deadline from the commercial to residential adaptive reuse program. The ordinance affirms the Planning Department's CEQA determination, makes findings of consistency with the general plan and the 8 priority policies of Planning Code Section 101.1, and findings of public necessity, convenience, and welfare pursuant to Planning Code Section 302.
Hello, my name is Christina Lennox, and I'm the co-founder of Brownstone Shared Housing. And we created a place that's affordable for $700 month to month out of a vacant, formerly vacant bank. And then we were hit with an affordable housing fee of $306,000, which stunts our growth, and it actually puts us at risk of having to pack up all of our furniture and move out of the city. But without this affordable housing fee, we're able to create not just tens more housing for people, but hundreds more in a few months. So I am in support of removing this affordable housing fee. Thank you.
So before I go to you, Supervisor Dorsey, I wanted to weigh in on this issue. So I, have been a stalwart supporter of our child care funds that are assessed from commercial rents, also affordable housing. I frankly have lost sleep at night for the past few years over what has happened to our downtown, to our commercial office space, which really is the bulk of the base of our city budget. So our public transit spine infrastructure is in the downtown area and radiates to the rest of the neighborhoods, connects to the region. Our downtown commercial space pays into our taxes, our budget. The hotels that are in SOMA in the downtown feed not just the arts, but provide local 2 jobs and working class jobs that provide a living wage and dignity. And our retail, luxury retail in the downtown Union Square area has also provided an attraction to visitors and tourists, which is our bread and butter. In San Francisco, that's our bread and butter. It's not tech, it is hospitality. So what has happened to that ecosystem actually has been a long time coming. Before the pandemic, you may remember that the men's store for Macy's left, 8 years ago already? When somebody brings you whatever your little heart desires to your door in a box, going up to the 8th floor of Nordstrom is just not so attractive anymore. And as one of the public commenters talked about, we knew that our balance of housing, retail, and commercial was off. It worked for a long time, so we just kind of left it alone. But then the pandemic hit and all those cracks just open, wide open. And here we are. I will remind us that when New York saw the Times Square area go through difficulties and depression, they did something similar, but did it for the entire area, not just for a few buildings. And it took them 20 years to turn things around. They have, spectacularly, but we have not. So I've lost sleep and I'm daunted by the amount of work that we have to do to turn around our downtown. And it is a bunch of work that we have been kicking this can down the road for decades, actually. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit when shifts happened of people, bodies being in the offices downtown and then shopping, going to lunch and doing all those things that, all of a sudden this cash cow started drying up and we just finally acted, to intervene, to change the things that we need to change. This legislation is actually really small. It is one project, perhaps 3 if we take the amendments and do the deadline till April, but it is just a drop in the bucket of the many, many things that we have to do to rethink the business plan for downtown, which is today not working. And whereas I absolutely want money for childcare, I want money for parks, I want all those things, 0% of 0 is 0. And I am really afraid that our inaction and our disagreements of kicking this can down the road will lead to more time of our, union carpenters being unemployed, our hotel workers being unemployed, all of the people who used to be UFCW members that worked at Macy's now no longer having jobs. It has profound repercussions for the city to have inaction on something. Will this work? I hope so. It may not. But I know that 2 or 3 conversions of commercial buildings will prime the pump for more development because it will be possible. There will be people downtown at night and, people attract other people. And so when you have businesses that are successful, they tend to attract other successful businesses. So I am eager to move this forward.
And then on the motion to recommend as amended, Vice Chair Chen.
Can you repeat? Now we're voting on
So
moving forward.
while we're
on the
taking
entire
roll call
thing.
votes, we can't have an explanation
no.
of the vote. On the motion that is Vice Chair Chen, no. Member Mahmoud?
Yes.
Mahmoud, aye. Chair Melgar?
Aye.
Melgar, aye. Madam Chair, there are 2 ayes and 1 no with Vice Chair Chen in the dissent.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes.
Among those bringing this item to you today, together with Mayor Lurie and Supervisor Sauter, amendments were circulated earlier. I believe you have them before you, and I am happy to support them. I represent communities in the East Cut and Mission Bay that are really blueprints for what a vibrant mix of
Supervisor
uses.
Dorsey, can you hold on a second? Could we lower signs? I guess are all right, but the request is that they be lowered so that you're not blocking the view of the people behind you.
There's a board rule that indicates they should not be blocking view and be essentially in your lap.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. Take it away, Supervisor
Okay,
Dorsey.
thanks, President Mandelman. So
Thank you, audience.
I represent communities like the East Cut and Mission Bay that are really blueprints for what a vibrant mix of uses can mean to fulfill the promise of 21st century urbanism. Underutilized and vacant office buildings offer us an incredible opportunity to unlock more units of housing and to welcome new neighbors downtown. In many ways, this legislation seeks to correct the errors of 20th century planning, which was over-reliant on office-only downtowns and which isn't serving our city well today. Office-to-residential projects not only contribute to our housing goals, they also reduce the supply of vacant offices, which helps to stabilize the office market, and by extension, our property and business tax base that supports everything our city does. However, we are not currently seeing these projects move forward at the scale or the pace we need. This ordinance would help to lower those costs by waiving impact fees, including inclusionary housing requirements for a targeted and narrow set of downtown office-to-housing conversion projects in the C3 and C2 zoning districts. And I believe it is a reasonable trade-off to make when we are currently not getting the impact fee revenue or inclusionary units from all these projects that aren't getting built because of high costs. This ordinance is about stimulating housing development in downtown, both these conversion projects and new housing projects downtown and citywide. And with that, I want to thank all the staff of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development for their work on this, the Mayor's Office, and of course our Land Use Chair, Supervisor Melgar. Thanks also to Supervisor Chen for your engagement and questions throughout this process. I'm looking forward to passing this today, and I hope to have your support.